Chalo bachcho, welcome back. I know, exams are just around the corner and the pressure is building up. But please, don't worry. We're going to tackle Chapter 1, Variations in Psychological Attributes, with a super quick, super easy revision. I promise, by the end of this, you'll feel so much more confident. So let's just dive right in, shall we?
Just think about it for a second. In your own class, right? Some of you are just amazing at debating. Some are incredible artists, and then there are others who can look at any maths problem and solve it in a snap. Why is that? How come everyone isn't exactly the same? Well, this simple question is basically the whole point of this chapter. It's all about what makes each and every one of us so wonderfully unique.
So, first things first. Before we get into the heavy stuff, let's understand the absolute basics of why we are all so different. Why we think, feel, and act in our own special ways. Let's find out.
Okay, so psychology gives us two big ideas to think about this. On one hand, we have individual differences. This just means we all have our own personal traits. You might be a shy person, or maybe you're the one who's always cracking jokes. But then, on the other hand, there's something called situationism. This idea says that our behavior changes a lot depending on the situation we're in. Just think about it. You act a certain way with your friends, all loud and crazy. But the second your parents walk into the room, your behavior changes, right? You become all quiet and well-behaved. That is situationism in action.
All right, now for the main event, the star topic of this chapter, intelligence. I know. You see all these theories and names, and it can feel a little bit scary. But trust me, we're going to break it all down into very, very simple points. Ready? Let's go. So one of the very first people to really try and figure this out was Alfred Binet. His idea was pretty simple, really. He thought intelligence is just one single thing, kind of like a master key that you can use to solve any and every problem. He called it the Uni-Factor theory. Uni means one, so one factor, one kind of smartness, simple as that. But then along came Charles Spearman, and he said, hang on a second, I think it's a little more complicated than that. He came up with a two-factor theory. He said we all have a G factor, which is our general overall intelligence, but then we also have different S factors, which are our specific talents. So a brilliant scientist like C.V. Raman would have a very high G factor, of course, but also a super high S factor for science. Makes sense, right? And then Howard Gardner came along and oh my God, he completely changed the game. He said there aren't just one or two types of intelligence, he said there are 8 of them. In his theory of multiple intelligences, you could be word smart like a great writer, or number smart like a mathematician, or even people smart like a fantastic leader. And the most beautiful part of this idea is that it means every single person is smart in their own unique way. For instance, let's take Bodily-Kinaesthetic Intelligence. This is basically being body smart. Just think of a cricketer like Virat Kohli or a dancer like the amazing Prabhu Deva. The way they can control their bodies with such precision and grace, that is absolutely 100% a form of intelligence.
And it's the same with music. Some people are just born music smart. They have what we call musical intelligence. Think of legends like Zakir Hussain on the tabla or the great A.R. Rahman. They can hear and create musical patterns in a way that is just magical. They're sensitive to rhythms and sounds. It's just another amazing kind of intelligence.
All right, bacha log, full attention here, please. This next section on IQ, this is a guaranteed pakka question for your exams. So let's make sure we get this crystal clear. And don't worry, it's actually really easy, I promise. Okay, so what in the world is this IQ score we always hear about? Well, it stands for intelligence quotient, and the famous formula was given by a psychologist named William Stern. Just remember this. IQ equals mental age divided by chronological age, and then you multiply that by 100. Now, chronological age is just your real age, how old you are. And mental age is basically a measure of how smart you are for your age. So if your mental age is higher than your real age, that means you're pretty bright. Chalo, let's do a quick practice run. This is a classic exam question. If a child is 14 years old, that's their chronological age, right? But their mental age is 16, what is their IQ? Go on, pause for a second and try to calculate it yourself. So, did you get it? We take the mental age, which is 16, we divide it by the chronological age, which is 14, and then multiply by 100. And that gives us about 114. Now, the average IQ for anyone is 100. So an IQ of 114 is actually really good. It just means this child is intellectually a bit ahead of other kids their age. Now, don't get scared by this graph. If we were to take everyone's IQ score and put it on a chart, it would look like this perfect bell shape. See how it's highest in the middle? That's because most people, the majority of the population, have an IQ right around the average of 100. Only a very few people are at the super high end or the super low end.
And this table here, which is right out of your textbook, it gives us some labels for these different IQ ranges. As you can see, most of us fall in that average category, somewhere between 90 and 109. People with an IQ above 130 are called very superior or gifted, and those below 70 might be classified as intellectually disabled.
So, does this mean that a high IQ score is the only thing that matters in life? No way, absolutely not. In this section, we're going to see that being smart means very different things in different cultures, and that our emotions, our feelings, play a huge role on how successful we are. This is such an important point. You see, in many Western cultures, what's really valued is something called technological intelligence, being really fast, really good at analysis, and focused on your own personal achievements. But in our Indian tradition, we have a concept of integral intelligence, or what we call Buddhi. And this is so much more holistic. It doesn't just value how good your brain is, it also values your social skills, your connection with your family and your community, and showing respect to your elders. And that idea connects perfectly to emotional intelligence, or EQ. You must know people who are brilliant in their studies, but they just can't seem to get along with anyone, right? Well, they might be low on EQ. It's the ability to understand your own feelings and also the feelings of other people. It's about being heart smart. And let me tell you, it is just as important for success in life as your IQ is.
Okay, we're on the last section. In this final part, let's try to connect all of these big ideas directly to you. How can you figure out what your own special talent is and what makes you, you? Let's do it. Let's get two words really clear: aptitude and interest. Just think of it like this. Aptitude is your natural talent. It's like a seed that you were born with. But a seed can't grow by itself, can it? It needs water. And that water is your interest, the things you truly love doing. The real magic happens when your aptitude and your interest come together. That's when you really start to shine. And what about creativity? Is being creative the same as being intelligent? Well, not exactly. You see, most intelligence tests use what's called convergent thinking. That's when you have to find the one single correct answer to a question, like what is 2 plus 2? It's 4. But creativity uses divergent thinking. This is all about exploring many possible solutions. For example, if I ask you, how many different uses can you think of for a single brick? Well, there's no one right answer.
And here is the most important takeaway, and this is straight from your book. You do need a basic level of intelligence to be creative. But beyond that point, having a super-duper high IQ doesn't mean you'll be more creative. In fact, many of the world's most creative people had pretty average IQs. So please, don't ever let anyone tell you that you are not creative.
And with that, we've come to the end of our revision. We've talked about different kinds of intelligence: IQ, EQ, aptitude, creativity, the whole shebang. So now I want you to think about this one last question. What is your unique mix of all these things? What is your superpower? Maybe you have a very high EQ and you're a wonderful friend, or you're a super creative problem solver, or maybe you're a star on the sports field. Whatever it is, discover it, believe in it, and work on it. All the very best for your exams. You are all going to do wonderfully.